Since August 6, intense fighting between Ukrainian and Russian forces has dominated the Donetsk and Kharkiv regions. This heightened tension on the battlefield has overshadowed other events. However, recent developments on the Kharkiv front have drawn our attention back to northeastern Ukraine. On September 23, Ukrainian forces launched a surprise counteroffensive in the region of Bakhmut, where Russian troops were heavily deployed. The following day, news broke that the strategically important Vovchansk aggregates plant had been fully reclaimed by Ukraine, shaking the Russian lines and prompting the withdrawal of most Russian troops from the area. So, what happened in this region? How did Ukraine manage to force Russian forces to retreat during this significant counteroffensive, and what impact will this have on the overall course of the war? Let's seek answers to these questions together. The Bakhmut region is located right next to the Volkhya River, and the Vovchansk aggregates plant holds great strategic importance. It consists of numerous fortified buildings with strong defenses. These structures, especially when used defensively, provide ideal conditions for repelling counterattacks. In particular, the river along the southern edge of the complex complicates any direct attacks from adversarial forces. For this reason, Russian forces used this facility as a key defensive position, trying to dominate the Ukrainian forces. However, Ukrainian troops spent months attempting to seize the location, but direct attacks yielded no results. These failed attempts, lasting until July, forced the Ukrainians to develop new strategies. Realizing that a direct assault would not produce the desired outcomes, they decided to encircle the facility and approach it through alternative means. The goal of this strategy was to control the strategic routes around the installation while avoiding direct confrontation. By mid-July, Ukrainian forces had taken control of these roads, complicating the situation for the Russian troops stationed inside. Despite Russian attempts to provide logistical support to their troops using drones, it was insufficient, and Ukrainian forces gained a significant advantage as Russian defenses weakened. By the end of August, the Russians suffered severe losses due to organized attacks by Ukrainian forces. Finally, a last Ukrainian counteroffensive at critical points in the Bakhmut region, involving active participation from special units of Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Service, effectively neutralized Russian forces within the facility, allowing Ukraine to recapture the entire Vovchansk aggregates plant. Following this operation, Ukrainian troops began driving Russian forces out of Bakhmut. According to Ukrainian Defense Intelligence, rescue and demining operations are currently underway in the area after the withdrawal of Russian troops from the complex. Ukrainian intelligence units swiftly mobilized to ensure the security of the complex and resume operational activities in the zone. These operations were executed by special organizations within Ukraine's defense intelligence and proved to be highly successful. After capturing the Vovchansk aggregates plant, the Ukrainian army completely eliminated the last remnants of Russian resistance in the area. This victory compelled the Russians to hastily abandon their defensive positions in the region, further consolidating Ukraine's strategic advancements. The Russians attempted to counter the Ukrainian offensive in Bakhmut, but to no avail. This operation, executed by Ukraine with superior strategic planning at the right moment, shifted the balance of power in the region. During the operation, Ukrainian special forces engaged directly with Russian troops, particularly in the fortified buildings of Bakhmut, leading to intense confrontations. In these clashes, key Ukrainian intelligence agents managed to completely destroy the 45th Brigade of the Russian Army. This success accelerated Ukraine's advance in the region and forced Russian forces to begin a significant withdrawal. Ukraine's success in Vovchansk also greatly disrupted Russia's logistical support in the area. The Russians attempted to counter the Ukrainian ground offensive using drones, artillery, guided air bombs, and kamikaze drones. However, these efforts fell short against the superior tactics employed by Ukrainian forces. As a result of the operations conducted by Ukrainian intelligence services, nearly 30 strategic industrial structures in Vovchansk came under Ukrainian control, including the aggregates plant. Control of the region is now fully in Ukrainian hands. On September 24, Kirilo Budanov, head of Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Service, provided a detailed account of the operation, asserting that it had been extremely successful and that Russian forces had lost a critical defensive position. According to Budanov, the chances of Russia regaining control of the region are very slim. It's only a matter of time before Ukraine takes full control of Bakhmut and its surroundings. He emphasized that the Russians lack the military power and logistical support to reclaim this area. Budanov declared that if Ukraine continues its pressure, the Russian army will have to retreat completely. Russia needs more soldiers and additional military support to maintain its defensive lines in Bakhmut. However, if Ukraine continues its offensive, the Russian army will face serious difficulties in holding its defenses in the region. If the Russian army cannot mount further resistance in Bakhmut, Ukraine could liberate the area entirely and expel Russian forces from the city. In this scenario, Russia's military power would be further weakened, dealing a significant blow to Putin's military strategy. If Russia is forced to withdraw troops from other fronts to defend Bakhmut, this could lead to a major loss of prestige both nationally and internationally. A complete withdrawal of the Russian army from Bakhmut would reinforce the international perception that Russia has lost the war. Moreover, this retreat could create significant disappointment among the Russian public. Recent opinion polls indicate that Russian public sentiment increasingly favors an end to the war and the initiation of peace talks. According to the latest surveys, 49% of Russians want Putin to abandon his plans to fully occupy Ukraine and withdraw troops, a notable increase from 40% in January 2024. Additionally, 63% of Russians favor a peace treaty with Ukraine that includes mutual concessions. These data points indicate that the negative impact of the war on the Russian people is growing. The prolonged conflict is making the Russian populace increasingly uncomfortable with the situation, which in turn undermines support for Putin's leadership. These surveys also reflect the changes that have occurred in Russia since the war began. Initially, there was a strong belief that the war would end quickly and that Russia would emerge victorious. However, the ongoing nature of the conflict and the rising casualty figures have reversed this perception. A large segment of the population now believes that continuing this war brings no benefit to Russia. This shift in perception could lead to a decline in support for Putin's leadership. The pressure on Russian domestic politics may also directly affect Putin's future strategic moves. We will continue to observe these developments in the coming days, keeping you updated on the most pressing events at the front. To support us, please like the video and subscribe to the channel.